All right, Ryan, I'm super
Yep.
excited by this. We're just talking. I'm really excited for the conversation because I think what you have, what you do, is super helpful. There's a lot of parents out there that'll benefit from this particular conversation, myself included. So,
Sure.
thanks for joining me.
Anytime, man. Always good talking ball, and yeah. This is fun for me. So anytime.
Cool. So, setting this up for folks, Ryan Ford of Texas Baseball Resources. I came across you on Facebook and some of your videos on Instagram. Super interesting, a lot, very informative. You are a Texas guy. You grew up in Austin, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Austin. I'm actually in Austin right now. So yeah, big Texas guy. Travel around the state. Yeah, very familiar, deep roots throughout Texas. I'm obviously worked across the country at this point with various events, but yeah, Texas is definitely home.
Cool. So, baseball guy. Uh, Played baseball in college. I
Yeah.
think Navarro College as well as North Lake College. You attended, played baseball. I tell folks to even get to the collegiate level and play at in college baseball. Period. You are part of the top 10% of athletes at that point, even to get to the college baseball level. So I'm always um, you know, I try to bring folks on with high level experience because that experience is going to be super helpful. You attended TCU,
Yeah.
and from there you got into coaching. Is that right?
That's right, and I appreciate the flattery on the playing stuff because the more I'm around it and work with so many talented players, you realize candidly how not good you were back in the day and how awesome these players are now and what they can
Mm-hmm.
do. But yeah, I played a little bit in college, had some good opportunities, got around some good players and good teammates and great coaches. But yeah, at TCU, I started as a strength and conditioning coach, an intern, the lowest level guy you could be working with a football team, and
Mm-hmm.
that set me down a path of strength and conditioning and coaching, and just frankly just wanting to learn all about training, and that of course is branched off into other things. But that's how I
Yep.
got started, was a volunteer internship while in school as a kinesiology major at TCU is really how it kind of got started.
Yeah, I was just talking to another guy, and he worked in a strength and conditioning capacity for a company up in Dallas. And he talked about when you are around some of these high level football players specifically, you realize how little you are as a human being
Yeah.
compared to some of these guys. So it's probably a very humbling experience around some of
Well,
those guys.
it definitely was, and of course TCU is a very good program, and to be a college baseball player, you can hold your own in the weight room. And again, I'm pretty good in that environment. But yeah, it's a whole nother level to see a 6'6" offensive lineman squatting 700 plus pounds. Um, yes, you can get pretty humbled pretty quick on what these guys can do as far as their athleticism, but again, that culture, that environment, that intensity. I love baseball, but there's nothing quite like the intensity of, frankly, Texas football in many ways.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And then you made your way over to UT.
Yeah,
I'm sure that was pretty awesome. Coached there from 2012 to 2015 under both Augie Garrido, which I definitely want to talk about that, and
yeah,
Skip Johnson,
yeah,
who is currently now at OU.
yeah.
Um, so I got to know, the great Augie is probably one of the greatest coaches in baseball history, the end period, whether it's collegiate, professional, whatever. I mean, an absolute legend.
Yeah.
In your time working with him, what would you say would be some lessons, some big takeaways that have helped shaped who you are today? Um,
Yeah. Honestly, man, there's I don't even know where to start. There's so many, right? Look, Augie Garrido is he is one of the best, right? He's on
mhm.
that Mount Rushmore of frankly great coaches. But I think the greatest compliment he ever gave to me, and I'll give it back to him, is he considered himself a teacher, and it's not just about baseball. So maybe that's the first big lesson, was making sure that you connect with your players and frankly your staff and everybody, um, without baseball being involved, because, you know, every player is really just a person. It's really just a young
Yep.
man or young woman going through a particular time in your life. And if you can speak to that person and what's important to them and let them know that you care, or, you're not just a number in the batting lineup, that's a big piece. And how he was able to do that, and to be really transparent with you, I think Skip Johnson does that maybe better than Coach
Really.
Garrido in many ways. But yeah, being able to connect with those players and understand, look, if you want to get the best player you can out of it, you really need to speak to the person inside of that uniform. So that's probably the
Hmm.
big one is, hey, if you deal with the person, the player side of him kind of takes care of itself in many ways, or that's the right way of going about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely a personal connection was something he emphasized, that I saw, man, he's able to really say the right thing at the right time to the right person to get that little extra that other people don't see.
Hmm.
He had that skill, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's something, Ryan. I'm is very interesting that you mentioned that. I see this time and time and time again for coaches at all in every sport at all levels. The best coaches have that characteristic, right? They see the human being before the this person, the number on the back of the jersey or whatever. And coaching now, I coach a group of 12-year-olds,
Yeah.
right? Which is an adventure in itself. And that's one of the things that I love is that just getting to know them as a young man. What are their interests? What are they afraid of? What do they really want to do? Because my job as a coach, and I say this all the time, I'm not here at 12 years old to get you into the MLB or even to college. Yeah, maybe if we're here long enough, maybe high school, you'll be able to play in high school. That's really not my goal. My goal is really to help you develop as a young man so that you are the kind of person that when I see at the grocery store or wherever, that you are a valuable member of the community. You may not be a college athlete, but you could be the next chief of police. You can be a fire captain. You could be the next mayor of our city. And that is just as admirable and just as honorable as being a shortstop for, well, I don't think anybody wants to play for the White Sox right now, but
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
right. But still is very cool. So as a coach, that's you will hope that your kids or your coaching staff down the road, that's what you want them to say about you is that, hey, he really cared about me as a person.
That's, I mean, let's be real. That's all that really matters here. Baseball to me is an experience. And I think families and players that go through it are better off than those that don't.
Hmm.
I mean, that's the thing. It's a form of education to me. It's access to the travel and the lessons and all the things you learn throughout the game of dealing with adversity and competition and how to communicate with teammates. I mean, that's the secret. I mean, it
Hmm.
really isn't about spin rates and launch angles. I mean, those things that, those are great. And I like all
Right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Those play at a certain level, right? But till then, it's, hey, can we get this kid, keep him out of trouble? Can we keep him active? Can we keep him in the community? That's the real thing. And to your point, when you really started, you know, Skip Johnson and many others say this, but I think it's so true. The players, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Oh, that's
And
great.
that is so true. I have been a new coach several times over, and I can have all the routines, all the drills, all the workouts, all the exercises that anyone can ever have, but nothing really clicks once those players realize, hey, this guy cares about me. He's all in.
Hmm.
He's going to be here tomorrow. He's going to show up, right? He doesn't just care about my batting average. Once that connection happens of, hey, he cares about me to some degree or my success on and off the field,
Hmm.
plus he knows a little bit what he's doing, then it really can connect and go, right? That's trust, that's credibility. And that's, as a coach, you have to fight for that. It's easy to lose,
Yep.
But we're fighting for that with every player and every family we work with. Is look, um, that's what's important. You're gonna baseball is gonna quit you at some point, and hopefully your experience through the game has made you a better person, better player, better everything. I think
Yep.
it does, but again, that's really the value of the baseball experience to me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's interesting when people Google Augie
Yep.
Garrido, they're gonna see some epic and
Yeah.
kind of hilarious tongue lashings that he gave the teams. Um,
Yeah.
if you put it into context, based on what we just talked about, right? He is looking at a group of young men who he knows deeply. I mean, they've been through the fire together. They've molded and they've shaped that team together. And so some of those tongue lashings, underneath all of that is a guy that really, really cares about those kids. And you
Yeah.
can tell because the message behind all of that is that, guys, I believe in you too much to allow you to perform anything less than what you're capable of. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm sure in
Sure.
you
Well,
were there.
yeah, of course, look, we've all seen those videos, and look,
Yeah.
I'd be for the audience at home, we definitely knew when, hey, it's a camera day, right? There's a
Right.
camera around here today, so get ready, right? But the truth is, all of that stuff, and every coach that's ever been around that stuff knows that, hey, you can rant and rave or do. Look, if they don't know that it's coming from a place of love and caring, then it don't matter, right? We just shut up.
Right.
Hey, who is this guy? Beat it, right? But when it's someone you know is in there with you and cares about you and wants your success as much or maybe more than you do, when you play those cards, all right, when you have those moments, which again, if you do it all the time, then it has, there's no impact there. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're strategic with that type of coaching moment and style, it can really hit home because look, again, that video and those things, everyone sees it and it makes for an awesome Twitter post.
Right. A lot
But
of likes.
99% of it is a much softer, much gentler touch. Hey, come talk to me in the room about something, right? Or hey, we saw this. Let me know you're on the right path. I can tell you those softer moments are just as impactful at times because that's, again, knowing what that player might need. Maybe this guy responds well to the fire. A lot of
Right.
guys don't. A lot of guys, you do that to them, they shut down. I don't care how big or tough they are. So knowing when it's the right, way to administer that message. Again,
Mm-hmm.
Garrido, a total master at that. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it makes for a fun YouTube, but you should see some of the softer, quieter ones that, man, really hit hit home for
Yeah.
everybody in the room where you could have heard a pin drop. There's other ways of doing it. It's a style thing and knowing when to, use that particular
Yeah.
style.
Yeah. And that's a great segue into Texas baseball resources. And in just our previous conversation about what it is that you're trying to do with Texas baseball resources,
Mhm.
I can see your experience with Augie and how you describe what you're trying to do with parents, right? And it's not the fired up guy, it's those softer moments where there is a caring and compassion, and you're trying to help a kid in a family live out a dream or even have that baseball experience
Mhm.
in a very caring way, in a very authentic way, which is awesome. So with that, Ryan, if you could just describe or share with folks Texas baseball resources,
Yeah,
what generally are you doing to help families? And I'm curious about your inspiration, like what
sure.
kind of sparked it off for you?
Well, I'll start with that. How about that? Well,
Yeah.
look, that high school baseball experience, that time frame, for 99.9% of us, that's it. right? That's the pinnacle of their career. And that's going to be the last experience they really have around a competitive baseball environment, team, camaraderie, the bus trips, all that stuff, right? And I can speak from my experience. Hey, the dream, right? You can call it whatever you want, but I'll say the
Hmm.
dream is very real to that 14 to 18-year-old young man that's going through this, right? And it should be, right? Everyone knows the numbers as far as going to the next level. Look, it's not
Right.
stacking in your favor. We all get that. Um, but that doesn't mean we can't have a great experience here and the now, because again, that is going to shape them in so many other ways, right? This guy could be the coach of that very team 10 years from now,
Yep.
or the principal of the school, or a police officer, fire, it's a big deal for those that have a positive experience through that baseball experience. And those either don't do it, which I think is the ultimate crime, or they have a really negative experience. And of course, I
Hmm.
see those experiences on Facebook.
Hmm.
So I try to be essentially the resource, the advisor to some degree that I wish I had, right? Families don't know what they don't know. And they're really barraged with a lot of, frankly, noise and nonsense at this point.
Yeah.
Whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Look, I'm not here to just pick on social media. I'm playing the social media game now,
Right.
right?
Yeah. This
So,
video is going to be posted on social
hey,
media.
look, if
Right.
I could push a button and just totally wipe Twitter from the face of the earth, I would push that button,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe
So,
not Twitter. I like Twitter, but
I would, hey, that would be the first
yeah.
one to go.
Yeah.
But look, the point is families are, it's an emotional time. They've
Yes, it
got
is.
a player, a child that, let's be real, they don't make oftentimes rational decisions around. It's very emotional, right? When your
Yep.
kid says, I want to do something, they're afraid of getting things wrong. They feel that it's their only chance. Maybe they feel like they've let their kid down or failed as a parent
Hmm.
if they don't
Hmm.
do X, Y, or Z. And there are so many comparisons and peer pressure and
Oh
noise
man.
and nonsense and people pulling at these kids and families. I just kind of eventually said, um, enough. I had been in the travel ball space, um, off and on since 2000, I don't know, 11, give or take.
Hmm.
Um, and it slowly has progressed into kind of this monster, this thing
Right.
that's out there. And there's so much great work being done all over the country by a lot of organizations and coaches, but it's just gotten too big and too much and candidly
Hmm.
way too expensive and way too much pressure, way too watered down. So it really started as me looking to make some extra money working for a team that weekend. And then it turned into a concerned parent pulling me to the side about something and asking for
Yep.
some genuine help. That led to another and led to another and led to another. And I found myself kind of going, look, these parents, they don't know where to start and they need some help. And these players don't have any clue, but the parents
Hmm.
really don't. And you can really do a lot of good and help with them and just frankly common sense and honesty. Um, it works wonders when you see that family go, hey, we just saved a bunch of money because you told us this or that. Or again, I can't tell you the times when I
Right.
get that, hey, I just got a scholarship text. That stuff is really important to me. So it's a passion project. It's something that's really important to me, but it started as word of mouth. It started as just one concerned parent asking for help, and it's led to so
Hmm.
many others.
Yeah, and I can tell you firsthand, and you've experienced it as well as a parent. Um, we get like 3 letters a week. I
Yeah,
get daily emails about come to this camp, come to this camp. Oh, the prospect, showcase here.
yeah,
The all World Series. Here's your
yeah.
invite, and it all sounds important. Like
Yes.
we need to do that.
Yeah.
But then for $1,200 and having to renew your passport and take a flight to Taiwan for the whatever, I'm
Yeah.
like, he's 13. Who's
Yeah.
going to be there, right?
Oh, Hey man, it's maddening. And I wish somehow over the last 10 years, I feel like they only have about six names they can pick from, right? It's select, all-American, elite, top team, scout. And you're going, I don't even know what it's a word salad that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, I don't know how you can have 12 teams and somehow they're all the best team ever in your organization. I don't know how that works. Of course it doesn't.
Right.
I'm joking. But um, no, if you don't wrangle this in, if you don't get control of this, you will find yourself pulled in all directions. You are going to go broke with travel fees and all the things that come with it.
Hmm.
Um, and again, I see things constantly. I don't know what 9U baseball competitive is. I don't know what rankings for 10U, but parents live and die by it. And
Yeah.
they assess their worth as a parent. And frankly, sometimes the worth of their kid as a player by some 11U meaningless thing. So
Right.
it's gotten really weird. It's gotten really weird and out there at times. But yeah, it anything probably before high school candidly just really
Yeah.
doesn't matter. If they keep wanting to play and keep wanting to participate and candidly just aren't throwing rocks at each other at times, you're doing the right thing, right?
Right.
High school to me is when it's let's either get serious or not. But everything before that it's about fun and participation and being active.
Sure. I think it would be hilarious that if one of these groups, maybe, I don't know, Five Tool or Perfect
Yeah.
Game or Prospect based,
Yeah.
I forget, come out with a ranking for like parents, because I feel like parents are almost, like you mentioned, judging their worth
Yeah.
based on their kids' performance. And it's like, oh, here's Sally. She's number one because she has the speaker, and she knows how to do Game Changer,
Yeah.
and she calls, uh, she can do the lineup on a paper book, right? Or
Yeah.
something like that. And here's Joe. He's assistant coach and he hits great fungo. So he's number two for
Yeah.
daddy ball, right? Or whatever.
Well, I mean, look, that would be parents are a whole nother conversation, really. But the truth is, again, when I got started with this, and really there was just this disconnect. I had
Mm-hmm.
just got done coaching at University of Texas and saw some of the best players and worked with some of the best baseball families and saw all those things. And then I saw what was being taught to, someone that was being sold that. And I
Right.
go, I don't, I just came from there. That's not how it goes. That's not what we do. That's not what's going to help you. And parents, there's this real disconnect, right? The mom with the speaker, or hey, we got to have the $90 batting gloves. And if we have this bat, and if we play for this team and wear this shirt, then
Mm-hmm.
surely we're going to get that outcome because some other guy wore that shirt for one weekend 5 years ago, and now he plays for Arkansas. And the reality is hey, the families and parents and the players that got the results you want, they actually are doing next to none of what you think is important. So
Right.
you're focusing all this effort, time, money, stress, all this nonsense. They go, man, you are not focusing that energy into things that are actually move the needle and productive. That's what became so maddening to me, and
Mm-hmm.
still to this day. Um, Parents are blown away. I've got the batting gloves. I've got the right thing. We play for the right team. How
Mm-hmm.
come we don't have LSU calling us? I'm going, well, you've spent all your money on meaningless stuff and not, a strength coach, not a good hitting
Right.
coach, not a reasonable camp, right? So it's just kind of working hard, but not working very strategically.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And speaking about, you had just made that transition
Yeah,
from a Power Five school to now you're looking at these kids. And just
yeah,
for the folks out there, they hear Power Five. I don't want to assume they know what that is, right? So
yeah,
we're talking about the Big Five conferences, right? The ACC, the Big Ten, you got the Big 12, the Pac 12 now, and
yeah,
then the SEC, right? So all the big schools that you think about, most kids, when you ask them, "Hey, you want to play in college," is one of the schools in the
yeah,
Power Five that they're talking about. And there is, that's not for everyone, right? A select few are going to get to that
yeah,
level. And then those that do, there were certain things that they invested in probably from an early age. They developed a plan They had good nutrition, coaching, and things like that, that gave them the opportunity, not a guarantee, an opportunity potentially to get there. So when you think about just kind of transitioning back over into to what you're doing, yeah, with all this stuff thrown at parents, right? What do you think? Just from let's say it's beginning in middle school or thereabout, because I think that starting around that age where you're beginning to think about high school, you can begin doing some things in earnest to better prepare you for the future. So Ryan, when you're talking to parents, perhaps even at that age, what are some of the things that you're mentioning to them, or what do you think they should start looking at?
Sure. Well, at the root of all of this, right, the core philosophy, if you really break down what I talk about, where I'm going with this, the seed I'm trying to plant with these people is that when they start to own their own development, right, when they take care of themselves and they focus on themselves, and we're not talking about being selfish, we're not talking about it's us versus the world.
Right.
We're talking about, hey, when you invest in yourself, right? When you work on, hey, can I get better? These other things take care of themselves in many ways. So
Right.
parents always go, how do we get to LSU? We got to do this. I go, hey, well, how those guys got to LSU was they focused on themselves so much and they refined and developed their games and worked on making themselves as attractive as they could be. Then LSU comes to them. Then these schools
Right.
come to them. Right? It's not the other way around. It's not, well, if we just go knocking on their door a bunch, eventually they'll let us in. No, you need to work on yourself. So we're trying to plant the seed of personal development, of getting that family, particularly the player, to understand, look, if you want something, that's great, but you're going to find it in the mirror. You're going to find it in here, right?
Right.
So LSU can't do your grades for you. You have to do your grades, right? Do you
Yeah.
understand the connection, the correlation between your behaviors, your routines, your actions get you the outcome you want, or they don't. And you
Right.
have to own that. So we're planting the seed of self-discipline and control and understanding that if you want something, you have to work for it. You have to deal with it. You have to own it. And these other things will kind of come to you. That's been my experience in my own personal life. That's what I see with other winners and candidly other fields. The more they focus on what they can control and what they can do, all this other stuff magically seems to figure itself out. So we're
Right.
trying to plant that early as possible, that they're in
That's
control,
great.
right? There's training wheels. Mommy and daddy are there, right? We all get that. We're not
Yeah.
asking for someone under 18 to be an adult. We understand parents are
Yeah.
a big role here, but we want them to voice a goal, say, I want to do something. Then we want them to say, look, if you work for it, you can do it. Here's how you do it. Because they don't know how to do that path. I do,
Sure.
and many others do. But we need them to say, this is something I want. I'm willing to put the effort into it. And then we challenge them to say, we'll help you, but we're planting the seed for them to control and own, frankly, their lives. I mean,
Right.
that's really at the core of all this. Baseball is just the flavor. Baseball is just the subject, but we're trying to plant to them of, hey, if you control what you can and own it,
Yep.
you have a head start on a lot of people that maybe never take responsibility for their actions or their behaviors. So that's what we're
We see
trying to
that
do.
every day, don't we? We see
Yeah,
it every
well, I
day.
mean, that again, that's the secret. Baseball is just the flavor of how I deliver that message, and
Yes.
that's how I can have an impact. But of course, this is just life stuff. This is just life stuff, and it's just baseball is the teacher, the way of doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as you describe that owning the process, I think about it's you have to have some skin in the game, right? So as the player, the athlete, if this is something you want, your mom can't do it for you,
Yeah,
right? Dad can only throw batting practice. He can't play for you. So at some point, you have to own that process. And I think every parent deals with this, where you're trying to motivate and encourage your kid because you know that it's important. Hey, we haven't played catch in a week. When are you going to ask to play catch? At what point should I stop asking you if you want to go hit, or do you want to go get ground balls, or do you want to do a pitching lesson? If it's something that you want, like if you wanted a new, whatever the new MLB The Show is, 2025, I guarantee you, as a player, a kid, they're not going to wait until the parent asks if you want that. They're going to come to you for the pre-sale, right? Because that's what they really want. But are they going to come in and say, hey, can you take me to the cages? It's
well, look, again, I've got players that I work with that are major leaguers, players that played at every level of college and high school and international that you can imagine at this point, that I've been around and seen and dealt with their parents, with the very rare exception. The parents were just, hey, when he wanted something or he wanted to do something, we found a way to make it happen. But the number of parents that go, I was a swimmer, I'm a teacher, I'm a banker, I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know what this is. But I saw that my son really wanted something, and I'm willing to help financially, move my schedule around. But the parent that is forcing their kid, now don't get me wrong, I have seen that parent where I go, man, this kid never had an option, right? This was your dream. And hey, those kids, I've seen them candidly hit some pretty impressive goals. There's guys all over professional baseball that might not want to do it other than it was dad's dream or mom's dream. So it's not there. But the overwhelming majority of these guys, even the guys whose fathers or somebody played competitive baseball, you'd be shocked at how little they force and how much they kind of lead by example. And again, that's why I plant that player development or that personal development seed, because I see those families that get ahead. I don't want to sound harsh here, but they're typically winners. And by winners, I mean they're winning in some other area of your life. They're successful business owners. They're good people. They're valued members of the community. So they lead by example. And the kid just happens to like baseball, but they can understand, hey, I can see mom working really hard for the things she wants. I can see dad working really hard for the things he wants. So they can make that correlation of, hey, my effort, my attitude, there's a correlation to how much success I can. And I care about baseball because they don't have jobs, right? Baseball is their job. It's their whole personality. So if they make that connection between, if I work hard at this and if I do the right things and if I ask for help at times, maybe they don't know how to voice it, but they can start to pick up that, hey, the secret sauce here is effort, discipline, asking for help. And they see it typically from their parents or the environments they're in. Not everybody has that, and not everybody has those parents. And that's candidly why I exist and many others, because how lucky are those families to have mom that was a competitive swimmer or dad that was a competitive something? How lucky are they? Wonderful. With that environment, great. A lot of people don't have that. So can they get access to a version of that without, frankly, just being luck of the draw by, who their immediate family or their immediate resources are. So we try to provide that level of expertise or that level of resources and support for many times those that don't have it.
Yeah. And that makes me think about if a kid's out there working, right? They're lifting weights, their nutrition's on point, they're working on themselves. We're going to get the inevitable invite to the showcase.
Yeah.
Right. So now I've been doing all this work, and now I want to go out and get my exit velo because I think I am like top 1%, or I want to see how hard I throw or whatever. And I get one a week at least a showcase thing. Some people are on different sides of the aisle in terms of showcases. I, for one, see some value in showcases, but in some areas, you it's probably not as valuable. And so, just curious, your
Sure,
take on the showcase,
sure.
and
Well,
and think about this, Ryan.
yeah,
We have like 12 and 13-year-old showcases,
okay,
and then and then
yeah.
going up to the high school era, age.
Well, look, I have worked for probably just about every major showcase that you can imagine at this point,
Mm-hmm.
from area code games to anything having to do with perfect game. I mean, there's probably very few people, and there's definitely some that have gotten a paycheck from perfect game as much as me over the last 10 years, right? I enjoy those events. I enjoy working for them. There's a lot of good. So I'm not here to just particularly bash one
Sure.
organization. The problem I have, not with any real one particular event, is your plan going into it. That is the problem. Every
Yeah.
showcase, the pickup game down the street can have a whole lot of value if it fits into your strategy and your plan.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I have is that people don't have a plan. So when they don't have a plan, it's real easy for them to feel pressure to go, oh, there's something this weekend, we got to do it. There's something next weekend, we got to do it. There's something that, and they look up and go, man, we just spent $3,000, and what are we even doing? That is the real problem I have is, hey,
Yep.
dude, you are just drifting aimlessly and someone is taking money out of your pocket. And if you say you're serious, then why can't you take the time to build a real plan here? That to me is just the maddening part. I guess people have unlimited money for this stuff, but don't have the 20 minutes to start to shape a coherent plan for their summer or what they're trying to do. Uh, I again, it's crazy to me. But look, the showcases, I'm going to put on my um, business guy hat,
Yep.
but there is not a better business model than the showcase, right? It's real easy, and parents need to understand that. Look, it's the most cost-effective way for someone to make candle out of money. You rent the field for X, you pay the coaches Y. Um, you got your balls, and then if you charge
Got
so
your
many kids this
stopwatch and your
amount,
radar.
yeah, if you charge this amount, hey, you get to keep what's left. And you can do that math really easy, really
Mm-hmm.
easy. So that's why the showcase to me is such an attractive model from a business side. So when these guys do it, I know why they do it. It's real easy to make 10, 20 grand, 5 grand. It's a matter of can we get X amount of players and cover our
Right.
costs. To the parent, right? They need to one understand how that process works so they don't get too personal when they understand, hey, the reason why you're getting a million emails is because they got to fill this up. And if they get to 20, they break even. Everything after that is a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of moms and dads don't think that way. I've been on every side of this
Mm-hmm.
thing, run showcases. The showcase has a whole lot of value if you frame it from, hey, we just want to see where we stack up.
Mm-hmm.
I would always minimize the cost of the showcase. Getting on a plane, 2 nights in a hotel to throw 30 pitches in Florida, that's not a good use of your time and money, right? But if there's something going on down the street, it's within reasonable driving distance. You've prepared, you know who's going to be there. You have intentions and expectations of why you're there, right? Maybe it's, hey, I haven't run the 16 in a while and I see you want to stack up. Hey, I
Yep.
know this coach is going to be there and I've talked to him. So really, I'm just going to show face there and say hello and shake a hand, right? You need to set the expectations of what you want out of it, and then you can make a decision. Is this worth it or not? But
Mm-hmm.
paying $500 for a showcase and hoping that some coach drops what they're doing because you just ran a 6.560 or your exit velo off the tee was impressive. That's just not that's not realistic expectations. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's what I see families going into. They think that that's how it works. So it's a really good way of, hey, if it's affordable, if it's in your budget, if it fits within your philosophy of what you're trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's there, hey, I'm do it. It's better than probably not doing something that weekend, but not at the expense of messing up your brain and to some degree with this craziness or taking away from another area that could be
Yep.
more productive.
Yeah, and I think I love the way your insight into showcases and going in with a plan is outstanding because
Yep.
we're on the same page there. Is when people They don't understand the value of the showcase, and they have some unrealistic expectation about the outcome. They
Yeah.
believe, or maybe they just don't know,
They
right?
don't know
That,
typically.
hey, you're not going to get a scholarship out of the showcase. That's just not,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, that's not what it's for. And if that's why you're going there, you could probably spend, I don't know if it's like $700-800 for the showcase. If you're trying to get to Vanderbilt, go to the Vanderbilt camp where you know the coaches are there instead of going to
Yeah.
8 different showcases, right?
It's again, we have to set the tone with our philosophy of what's our important to us, right? That's kind of the first step we do out the gate, right? I don't care about your curveball. Like, tell me what you're trying to get out of this, right? I won't bore you with that conversation, but hey, once we kind of know that goal, that philosophy, that sets the sail for everything else. So
Mm-hmm.
look, that showcase, um, there's nothing wrong with it. I wish. So when I personally run my own showcases. I use the term showcase because that's what everybody really understands. Oh, it's one of these things.
Right.
I think a better term would be identifier, right? Because the reality is from a college coach or a scouting perspective, all that the value to that side of the house is just, hey, we're going to see a lot of players in a short amount of time. So when we want to see 200 players, 60 players, um, look, you can say the word cattle call, but it really is. I'm hoping to see something and I'm just going to make a note of it.
Yep.
And that's it. Hey, a note to follow up. Hey, I saw something from this kid in this moment, right? So my list of 200, now it's 5 guys. Now I'm going to follow up with, he's at this high school. I'm going to make a phone call. That's all the college coach or scout gets out of this thing is, hey,
Right.
we saw a bunch of things. We saw this action or this behavior or whatever, and we just whittle it down. It's a numbers game. So look, from a coaching perspective, it's still a great deal to say that we need to see a bunch of kids quick in our area.
Yeah.
But that's all they get at. So parents, when they think, oh, we're just going to get a scholarship or something like that, look, I have seen a scholarship offer. So one
Mm-hmm.
time in the 10 years, I haven't seen a real scholarship offer be offered, essentially from a 60 time, to be honest with you. But for most kids and most families, that's not the reality. The reality
Yeah.
is that you showed up and now you're on a much smaller list and they're going to go follow up with you.
Right.
That's really what happens on the guys with the clipboard. That's all they're really doing.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that nowadays, with all the metrics and things like that, getting those metrics, I think, are important, not to, I think is most important to the family, to the player. It's like anything, you can clearly see what your strengths are. That's great. But identifying the weak areas, if it is, hey, I need to get faster, my hand speed, I need to find a way to improve certain metrics. Back to your initial thing, because if my goal is to go to UT, I need to work on myself to
Yep,
make myself attractive to their program,
that's right.
right? And so I think first and foremost, getting those metrics are super important to the family, to the player. And secondary, like you said,
Sure.
to if for whatever reason that day you got a good tailwind and you get and that 60 time looks great, maybe you just made the short list, right? But
Yeah.
that's not the goal of going to
No,
those.
look, you're absolutely right. Again, that's why I don't demonize these events all the time because look, they have a lot of value for a lot of people. And if you don't know where you stand to some degree, then how can you be honest with yourself?
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's the fastest guy in the world when they run by themselves with no stopwatch and they felt like they're fast. But hey, it's another thing to go, look, let's throw you into a group of 200 guys
Yeah.
that are your age that are competing for the same dream you have. Let's see where you stack up. And there's nothing wrong with getting those base measurements, but for the audience at home, look, it really is kind of this easy. Look, do you run a 7 or better 60? If the answer is no, the answer is you need to get faster. I
Yeah.
don't care the position you play, right? So if you run over a 7, right? You need to work on that, period. End of story.
Yep.
Outfield velocity. Everyone is looking for roughly, upper 80s to 90 miles an hour. So when we see a guy that goes, hey, you run a 7 or better, we make a little note, right?
Yep.
Hey, we saw 86 or better from the outfield. We make a little note. And when
Yep.
you do that with guys, pop time with catchers, was it a 2-0, 2-1 or better? Make a little note. You can real quick go, hey, we just saw, I don't know, 50 kids. If you just do that, you go, all right, there's 5, there's 4. It's usually
Yep.
around 10% of every showcase that I've worked. Around 10% of guys um, even make that small list to go, let's at least call the high school coach or at least see what else is going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, he did all these things. His batting average is 200. He's done. Right. So it really is kind of harsh, but it really does come down to, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you do this? No. Then it's
Right.
over because again, these
Because there are
50,000 kids.
470,000 other kids that are playing high school baseball as
It's
well.
harsh. It's harsh, but that's the reality of this stuff. There's so many families, and again, I never want to do that because it would be cruel and harsh. But there's a lot of times after that 60, uh, if coaches had all their way and it was about purely maximizing their time, uh, there would be a lot of guys that would run 160 and they would say, "Hey, today's not your day. Go do other stuff." I mean, that would be if coaches had total time control, they would do
Yeah.
that. They would do
Yeah.
that of saying, look, we don't need to see a lot of this other stuff if you just ran an 8-0 60 time, right? It's
Yeah.
just, so it's not a perfect science by any means, and coaches get it way wrong, and scouts all the time get it wrong,
Yep.
but you can kind of really whittle down a lot of this stuff to go, you know, coaches don't need to be out there for 4 hours. I can tell you that in a showcase.
Yeah. Yeah. This, so my son, he is a sophomore this year. So this summer is like, my understanding, the big time for
Sure.
camps, at least. It's a
Sure.
pretty important summer. And we went to, a couple of camps this last summer that were very good, almost like a test run,
Yeah.
right? The very first thing you want to see, hey, do I pass the eye test? Because you go in there and there's some dudes as
Yeah.
a freshman, like full, he had to be 20. It's like, man, did that kid just come in with his wife and kids to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you are looking to play at the college level, you have to be ready to compete against men. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
With the transfer portal, it's tough for high school players.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
look, something that's really important here is, and this is really, I'm speaking to the players now, and frankly, the parents here. It's
mhm.
real easy to, create this image of yourself based just on, your small bubble, right?
Yeah,
I'm guilty of this,
yeah,
right? I'm the varsity catcher at a sophomore. That means in my mind, I'm the best player of all time, right? Well, you
right.
don't realize that story is playing out at every other high school across the country. So when you start to get out of your bubble and realize, yeah, you might be the 2-hole hitter for your high school varsity team, and that's great, but so are these 50 guys. Now, how do you stack up against them? So getting out of
Hmm.
your comfort zone, out of your bubble to get a reality check, not to beat you down, but to show you, hey, there's 4 spots that are open and there's 200 of you, right? So
Yep.
it really is, it should be humbling. It shouldn't be an ego challenge to mom and dad or the kid, but it should be, hey, let me see where I really stack up and where I get to work. But look, the time to do that stuff is always, I say now. Look, if you're before 12 years old, 13 years old, have fun with it. I wouldn't even keep score. Have fun with it. Be consistent. That kid might be the best swimmer, or they might get into a band. They
Yeah.
might get into whatever. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to start getting competitive, I think it's appropriate to be strategic. But hey, we got to get outside of our comfort zone, out of our bubble to see what's really going on. And you
Yes.
typically don't have to go very far to realize, ooh, we got to do some work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Like
So
here,
yeah, it's a good thing to do to get out sometimes.
we play select, and we're gonna. I'm curious about your thoughts on
Yeah.
select versus high school.
Yeah.
But in Austin, I feel like we play the same 4 or 5 teams every single weekend. You see the same kids, same coaches, or whatever, and pretty well. Like, oh, we stack up well against the competition when you look at the bracket and the pool and whatever. But you drive 3 hours east, go to Houston, and you get mopped up really
Yeah.
quickly, right? And it's that reality check, like, oh, I was pretty good in my little town, but if I go to a major metropolitan area with a bigger pool of kids, all of a sudden I'm just a grain of sand out here. There's some
Yeah.
big old rocks and
Yeah.
some, guys out here doing a lot better than me. I better find a way to improve really quickly.
Well, look, and that is, if I'm speaking to parents, that's the reality that they don't see, right? They're blinded because again, it's their child, it's emotion.
100%.
So hey, I totally get you're dealing
Yep.
with candidly a crazy person in many ways when you're talking
Yep.
about a
I
parent and
am. I'm a
child.
parent.
Yeah, no, hey,
I can be
hey,
honest
look,
about it.
totally get it, totally get it. Try telling someone that their cat's not cute, right? It's not, it can't work, right? So, but what happens is these parents come up and they're in these little bubbles of stuff, the local little league, their local select team that they paid money for, and they don't
Yes.
realize that there's a million of these teams and a million of these scenarios going on. So they get kind of this warped sense of candidly ability or skill.
Hmm.
And you're right. When you get outside of your comfort zone, and this has happened in my non-baseball life, right? Everyone thinks they're awesome at
Right.
something, and then you go work for this coaching staff and you go, I thought we worked hard, or I thought our
Yeah.
standards were high. These guys, right? You got to do that to challenge and grow regardless. But baseball is the same. It's the same thing. You learn that lesson in baseball of, hey, just because you're doing well here, right? Hey, you're taking a bucket of balls every day after practice. That's awesome. That's a huge advantage, by the way. This guy's taking 2 buckets.
Yep.
That guy's taking 3. That guy's taking 3 and then he's hitting. And you realize, wait a minute. Well, maybe there's a reason why that guy is talking to college schools, right? They're coming to him because they heard
Hmm.
about this guy. So again, there's that disconnect of, look, I know you're the biggest thing in your bubble and in your household. And hey, look, that's very important. But get out a little bit here. Get out a little bit, test
Yeah.
yourself. Don't be afraid to be, you know, the new guy, the new person. Don't be afraid to get embarrassed. If you take that information and go, oh, wow, here's what we're going to learn from that and the actions we're going to take from it. Because
Yep.
that humbling effect happens to everybody in throughout their life in all areas. It doesn't stop. But for those players, that's usually one of those times where they go, wait a minute, there's other kids doing other stuff. For them, it's
Yes.
maybe the first or definitely an early time to learn that lesson of, oops, wow, the world's a lot bigger than my neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. We experienced that going to the camp. You, we went to a couple, and the physique, you're like, oh wow, there's some big dudes. I think my son is pretty good size, but I look around, it's like, hey, they're all big at this point. And so we did a couple of these, and this summer we did one showcase, maybe two, and then we did these camps. And what we heard at the camps was pretty consistently. For example, we went to A&M,
Yeah.
and they were like, yeah, a majority or maybe 40% or something, some number of their recruiting happens at the camp.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you've probably experienced this at UT.
Yeah.
How true is that your recruiting happens at the camps? And so it's part of your plan, if you're going to go to a school, should probably include going to that camp.
Yeah. Well, now, frankly, more, it wasn't too long ago that the camp approach, I didn't feel had the value for a lot of players, especially when they had no, and they needed to get their name out there, right? They needed to do the volume element
Mm-hmm.
to some degree. Now, with the element of the transfer portal, and for parents, what that really means, the transfer portal means that coach doesn't have to leave his office anymore to go find players. That's what it really means,
Mm-hmm.
right? So anytime you can come to them, because they don't have to get out and go anymore right now. I mean, they're going to do it, but the volume and the amount they have to do it, They don't have to do that anymore. So if you're betting on them to get in their van and get in the van and get on a plane, they don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to do that anymore. And so you showing the effort of going to them. Now, look, you still have to play and do your thing on the field and do your game.
Yes.
Again, you have to have done work and then show up for the test prepared, right? If you want to really make an impact. But the camps now, again, I think is a really relevant strategy, particularly for the high school players that are trying to go to college. I'll be blunt with parents on the call. It is as hard as it's ever been for a high school player to really get the attention of a four-year school because now they can compete with other junior colleges, schools in their conference, like the transfer portal, add in an element of NIL, that's another
Yes.
topic. But again, they don't have to gamble on high school kids anymore. So if you're going to be a high school kid, you're going to be a dude. You're going to be
Yeah.
the guy, right? There are a lot of All-Americans, a lot of 95s, a lot of lefties, a lot of 6'5", 60s that are going to junior colleges that most people have never heard of because it's, you know,
It's hard.
A&M, great program, great guys. Look, they're recruiting other guys in the SEC.
Yeah.
It's free agency every year. So
Yeah.
to bring it back home, the camps are really important because they're going to be there. Their eyes and ears are open. That's all you're hoping for. You have to do your part as far as the player and the baseball stuff and your attitude and actions,
Hmm.
things I talk about. But hey, they're there. You got to go to them now. I don't care who you are. The idea of a college coach coming to you, that's less as it's ever been. So you got to go to them. Even if you're that guy, go to the camp, have a great attitude, show out, shake hands, do all these things that I talk about. It's a really good, effective strategy because of the element of that transfer portal is really, coaches they don't have to go to Georgia in a showcase anymore. They don't have to do that, right? And the
Yeah.
cameras keep getting better, right? So they don't have to go anywhere. So if
Yeah.
they can stay at home and spend more time with their family and, in between stuff, they can watch some video. Coaches are pretty good. Yeah, sure,
Right.
they miss on some, but they don't need to spend 4 hours to watch you throw 30 pitches before they can make a decision on, hey,
Yeah.
this is not what we're looking for.
Yeah. And do we were in some cases, I see the head coach was there at the camp.
Yeah.
Some were in transition at the moment.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
were
yeah, yeah,
just in
yeah.
transition.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, in terms, because I've heard this in other areas, in football, I think in particular, there's often like a staff. Like it's not just one guy. Like the head coach is also doing the recruiting. Like everybody's doing recruiting, so they're
Yeah.
doing things like checking social media. They're calling the coach. Look at your travel baseball team. Call that coach or whatever. So it's you still have to perform, right? They're
Yeah.
looking at athletic ability and grades are super important. But what about social media? Because you
Sure.
were talking about cameras, and we're the instruction was we're video everything. Like get as much video as you possibly can. Post to Twitter, which is why I like Twitter,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and other
Yeah.
places because there could be people checking those social media accounts to really get an idea of your mechanics, your performance, or your attitude. How do you speak? How do you speak
Yeah.
about yourself? How do you present yourself? Um, what do you think about that as well?
Well, the short answer is, look, I can um, make fun of social media all I want, but the reality is we're all heads
All
down in this
connected.
thing, and the coaches are no different. Anybody that's been around, well, it's not even a baseball thing. It's just a human being thing at this point,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where heads are down on the phone. So, although I'm not a big fan of Twitter personally, look, college coaches, they live on it and they are recruiting out of it. And you can DM them and they follow guys. So it's not where I want to spend all my time
Yes.
in Twitter world, but it's the nature of the beast. So the social
Right.
media piece, to your point, look, every staff now, right? How a kid ends up on a school. It's not just some one person saw them on one magical night and that was it. The director ops may have seen him. The intern may have seen him. The strength and conditioning coach might have worked at camp and go, "Hey, did anybody else see this guy do that?" It's a
Hmm.
conversation. It's everybody. Candidly, a recruiting staff, it's a sales organization, right? For the parents at home, it's a
Right.
sales organization. All right. You want as many eyes and ears as humanly possible. It's a network. When I work with a kid, I can send a text message to a coach. Hey, I'm working with somebody who's doing all the right things. Coaches are getting text messages and they've built their network. They've cast their eyeballs, so to speak,
Hmm.
nationwide, even internationally at this point. So everybody is watching and you
Yep.
don't know who it is. I mean, I helped a
That's a
kid at
great thing to help people
TCU.
understand.
Oh, they don't get that.
Yeah.
The director of ops is watching all your stuff. The video guy is watching all your stuff. So all you have to do is make one goofy slip up, and the equipment guy can go, "Hey, you
Yes.
know the guy that we're talking to? Look what he just did." And it's over. It's over. You don't get to that head guy without several people giving the thumbs up on this guy.
Right.
We've been following him for a week. He did this. He did this. It was really stupid. It's over. You don't have three strikes in this. You have
Hmm.
one, maybe,
Hmm.
right? So parents don't get that. They don't get that.
And kids definitely don't
The
because
kids don't.
they can't think
We
that
don't know.
far enough ahead.
They don't understand it, and that's a big disconnect that I see. And people, it's maybe some of my funnier content, but the things that kids think are important and kids think are cool because all they know is their friends,
Hmm.
right? So of course the sunglasses are that matters. Of course the
The
swag
sliding
and batting
mid.
glove that matters. Of course the hair matters and the chain and the drip. Hey, that's really because that's what's cool to them.
Right.
They don't realize that, hey, you're trying to impress a 50-year-old, 60-year-old guy, right? He didn't think that's cool.
He's already ornery.
So you
And
don't realize you're walking around with a sign around your neck that says, I don't get it, right? And parents don't do that. Parents don't
Mhm.
do that. And so kids really don't understand their actions on social media and a lot of times just their actions and their appearance and the behaviors in these events, they don't they don't realize there's so many of them talented players are shooting themselves in the foot every day that it's over the second, they just don't get it. There's 200
Yeah.
kids in here. They don't get, hey, this kid showed up with a bleach blonde mohawk and eye black over his face. There's not a single coach. If the kid throws 120, it's over. He doesn't realize he just drove 2 hours. Mom and dad spent money. And because he showed up with pink cleats and goofy stuff, that his day is over before it even started.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that's kind of harsh, and I'm not the fashion police, but again, some of these things are going, hey, man, you are not helping your situation by
Hmm.
a lot of little goofy things that are
Hmm.
really easy to control.
Yeah. And I think I'm in a group with other former, kind of players and whatnot. And all of us are older,
Yeah.
obviously. And this, there's the traditional view where it was you minimize self, elevate the team, versus where everybody's a brand, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody is, is more a little more self-centered, I think.
Yeah.
And
It
there
is.
may become a time when the new generation, they become the coaches and they're cool with the swords and all the other stuff. And that's how the game changes. But for right now, if you are a junior or sophomore in high school, the guys in charge at the collegiate level are 50 plus, maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you just have to understand your audience.
Look, it's an interview. Again, to the parents, it's an interview. You don't show up dressed for casual Fridays on your first interview, right? Now you
Right.
might get to wear that. Look, the guys at Tennessee and Oklahoma State, awesome programs. Can't say enough good things about it. They have their style.
Hmm.
That works for them, but they're already in the door, right?
Right.
To get there, they didn't do that. I can tell you they didn't do that because I've
Yeah.
seen and worked with a lot of those kids. So it's an interview. So parents, you need to understand that first impression. Look, nobody cares about all this stuff. If you show up looking crazy and are
Hmm.
acting crazy on social media, kids validate themselves right now. And look, even I'm getting sucked into it. How many likes did you get? How many
Yep.
follows did you get? And let's be real, the flash gets you that attention, gets you those things that are the quick, easy ones. But a coach values, is this guy going to represent in my uniform that I'm paid a lot of money, that it's my livelihood, right? Can I trust this guy or do I want a character? Right? They don't want characters. They don't want
Right.
characters.
Right.
They just can't, they can't risk it, to be honest with you. So yeah, certain clubs, you show up with an earring at the showcase. I don't care if you're 6'8", left-handed throwing 97. Show up at the right place, you show up with an earring, it's over. Neck
Hmm.
tattoo, it's over, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know that's harsh, but that's the reality of it. I don't know who's letting high school kids get full arm tattoo sleeves and do these things.
It's like, is that legal? Don't you have to be?
I don't know what's going on. And again, there's a lot of really cool baseball influencers that have all the right affiliate codes for stuff that kids are going crazy for. I get it.
Right.
That guy's going to play for the Savannah Bananas. Go for it. All
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
But if you want to play for the schools that you say you really want to play for, those Power Five schools, they don't do that. Look at the videos of Vanderbilt and Oklahoma and
Hmm.
Texas. You don't see facial hair. You don't see earrings. You don't see crazy colored
Yep.
anything. It's just, hey, dress the part.
Yep. 100%. Got to pass the eye test first of
Yeah.
all before anything
Yeah, you
else.
got to let your game do the speaking, right? If all we
Hmm.
remember was, can you believe this guy whose hair was so long that every time he threw a ball from the shortstop, we had to wait 10 seconds for him to go pick up his sunglasses and pick up his hat? Like it drives us crazy. And we're
Yeah.
not a bunch of old fogies out there who, don't have we're fun guys, but it's maddening to us that we got to wait for you to adjust your batting gloves and this and
Oh
that, and this
man.
whole performance only to watch you throw 80 miles an hour from the field. Like, again, a
Yeah.
lot of coaches, if they could say, enough, next guy, these showcases would be four guys,
Right. Right.
probably be very quick. So,
Yeah. I caught myself, or I didn't catch myself. It was too late. What was done was done. But this last weekend, I had a player miss the still sign twice because they were looking down to adjust their sliding mitt. I'm
yeah,
like, you know what? Isn't the point of the sliding mitt so you can steal the base? You can't steal the base if you're messing around with that and don't get the sign, right?
look, the point of the sliding mitt now is swag, it's drip, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's a fashion statement, it's an accessory, it's a watch. I mean, that's kind of what it is. Look, the best guys I know of teaching any kind of sliding period, they still teach the good old fashioned, hey, grab your batting gloves, hold it so your hands in a fist so you're not
Yes.
jamming stuff up. Again, it's a fashion accessory at this
Yeah.
point. No knocking it. Look, go for it. Sell them. Hope you
Yeah.
make a bunch of money. But at this point, it's a fashion accessory.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, Ryan, man, this is a fantastic conversation. Again, I think I told you I come to this from a point of just curiosity,
Yeah.
learning, understanding. I'm in the midst of this myself as a parent, and my hope and goal is that other parents that have questions and they may even be thinking the same things, but just needed that validation, would watch this and walk away with some confidence and at least may and reach out to you about,
Yeah.
hey, I'm interested in a plan. Let's contact Ryan and just see what he has to say. I mean, there's
Yeah.
no harm in reaching out and just seeing what you have to say. So before we go, I've been asking people, first of all, to find you online.
Yeah.
How can people reach out to you and really start figuring out what their future and their plan looks like from a baseball perspective?
Well, I'm all very new to this. This has always been word of mouth and underground, but there is a Facebook page. You can DM me there. My Instagram is really is the platform I personally prefer. But you can DM me on either one of those platforms. I do have a website. you can schedule a call. The first call is free. We just kind of call it a strategy call and tell me what's going on, and maybe there's something to work with or not. But definitely, families get a lot of value out of that
Yeah.
initial call for sure. So yeah, that's the best way of getting a hold of me right now. Um, you know, always available to talk ball and help, and this is important to me. So yeah, Facebook DM and Instagram DM. You can contact me through my website,
Mhm.
texasbaseballresource.com. So I'm somewhat easy to get a hold of, and just
Yeah.
find a way, and happy to help.
Awesome. And then and then just before we close, I'd
Sure.
like to just ask if you got into this because
Yeah.
you want to be the resource that you wish you would have had,
Yeah.
uh, early on. If you could give advice to early Ryan Ford, right, or
Yeah.
early Ryan Ford's family, and a bit of advice maybe you want to leave with families today, what do you think that would be?
It would be to ask for help. Um, Young guys don't even know how to communicate, period, but let alone communicate maybe their feelings and their desires. And the idea of going up to an adult, even if it's mom and dad, and going, "Hey, I think I really like this. I think I want to do this. Can you help me?" I mean, I don't know too many parents that won't move,
Heaven
the
and earth.
world to do that.
Yeah.
But if you don't ask, you're not going to get it.
Yep.
And people aren't mind readers. Parents, your high school coaches, other adults, people that could probably send a text message or a phone call and dramatically change the path and outcome of your life in so many ways. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. I can guarantee you
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So for younger Ryan or younger guy, hey, ask for help. Hey, this is important to me. I'm looking for guidance. Who can help me? Can you help me? How do I do this? Look, as adults, I go asking for help. People go, "Hey, man, you're an adult. Figure it out."
Right.
Everyone wants to help the young man and young woman that's pursuing a goal and dream in sports and all that. Hey, a lot of people will clear their calendar to help a young person going for a goal.
Yes.
So it only gets harder to ask for help. But at that age, you don't even know that that's what you're supposed to be doing. So asking for help, trying to build a team, man, you'd be you'd be amazed at the good that can come from just that simple action of, "Hey, I could use some help here. Can you help me or
Mm-hmm.
point me in the right direction?" That can
Yeah.
change everything.
Yeah. That's such a wise man. I'd take that advice today.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, man, look, ego, right? Ego. I can figure
Yes.
this out on my own. That's what parents do. We can figure this out. We're
Mhm.
smart. We can navigate this whole thing. No, you can't. The last 10,000 parents tried to do it, and
Right.
they're the ones complaining on the Facebook group that you're in right now. So it's no, you can't figure this out. You can't figure
Yep.
this out.
Yep. Because you still
It's
have
okay to
to
ask for
do
help.
laundry and cook dinner and homework.
Yeah,
It's
and now
okay
I'm
to
supposed
ask
to
for
learn the
help.
ins and outs of multiple travel ball organizations and how this stuff works. And no, you can't. You can't do it, right? I mean, that's not to
Hmm.
downplay anybody's intelligence, but you're adding a whole nother level of knowledge base onto that. I don't just get to
Right.
pick up a new subject tomorrow. I mean, I'm a smart guy. I can figure out a lot of stuff, but you dump a whole new challenge and say, "Hey, learn everything about this particular topic." Yikes, it's tough. And,
Right.
and parents are trying to do that, reinvent the wheel, as I say, and it's not going to work out good for them. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
results. It doesn't work for them.
So fantastic, fantastic bit of advice. So parents out there, ask for some help. It's okay. Yeah, no shame. And yeah, there's a tremendous amount of good that can come out of this for your kids. So be sure to just get the help you need. So Ryan, Texas Baseball Resource, this is fantastic. I super appreciative of this conversation. We're gonna do another one of these next
Sure.
time. We'll get together
Anytime.
in person. I think
Yeah,
that'd be fun,
that would
and
be.
we'll do some stuff. So I appreciate it again, and we'll talk again soon.
Always good to talk ball, and thanks for having me.
All right, thank you, sir.